Hey, this is Connor. Welcome back to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel for another interview. Joining me today is actor Billy Bryk. We discussed his role in Ghostbusters Afterlife, his collaborations with fellow young Canadian actor Finn Wolfhard, his short films Alpha Losers and Night Shifts, as well as which other Canadian actors inspire Billy. If you enjoy this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Great. And I suppose with the way that 2020 has gone so far, how much were your plans for the year impacted?
Oh, they were completely sidetracked. The year's been totally different than what I
Mm,
was planning on doing, but it's been okay. I think I've managed to do all right this year.
yeah, and obviously you're the son of an actor, right?
Yeah.
Greg Brick, and how much of an influence was your father in following a similar career path?
He was super he's very supportive, but he also was very he made sure that we knew how hard the industry could be because he knew
Mm,
firsthand how difficult it can be to be trying to raise a family and making it in the industry. So even though he taught us a lot, he also was very he gave us our good amount of warning as to what we kind of had in store.
yeah, and I would say that Canada has a rich acting history, both in drama and comedy. So, other than your dad, like what other Canadian actors would you say you look up to or
I
admire?
That's a great question. I love Ryan Gosling. He's my favorite actor, and I think he
Mm,
does the comedy and the drama. And then of course guys like Seth Rogen and Michael Cera and Will Arnett, and just there's so many great comedians and people that are Canadian.
mm,
I'm trying to see if I'm blanking on any other ones. My friend Finn, he's a good young Canadian guy,
mm.
and I guess yeah, I don't know. I think that's the ones that I can think of right now.
Yeah, and some of your projects include, you might have to correct me if I get these wrong, Alpha Loser and Night
Mhm.
Shifts.
Yeah.
So, but what can you tell us about these films?
So, Night Shifts is a movie I made with my friend Finn Wolfhard. He wrote and directed it, and it's
Mm,
about two old friends who catch up with each other in a very awkward circumstance where one of them is working at a convenience store and the other one comes in to rob it, and then they find out that they know each other.
right, gotcha.
And then L for Loser is the first film that my older brother Dempsey wrote and directed. And it's kind of a funny story. He called me and said, "Billy, I wrote this part for you, and I think you're the only one that I know who can play it." And then I read the first page of the script, and I think the first line was like, "We introduce Stewie," which is my character's name, "the
Sure.
biggest loser in the world." And I was like,
Oh,
"Dude, what?"
ouch.
The
Yeah.
biggest diss ever from my brother. But it was a lot of fun to shoot as well, and I think that one will be coming out hopefully soon as well.
Yeah, and I suppose what do you most appreciate about film or short films as a medium?
Um, I think it's really important. I think like short films are such an interesting medium because you have so much obviously less time. So
Mm,
it's a lot less focused on story and it's more focused on, I would say, like atmosphere and character. And if you can fit a cool, concise story into a short film, then it's really awesome. But a lot of my short films are more just about the worlds that these characters live in. And I think that if you can get your character across, then I think it's can be a successful short film.
yeah, and I suppose going forward in your career, do you see yourself pursuing acting and filmmaking, or do you have a fixed goal on one of them?
I'd like to do both. I'm a writer and I want to direct as well, but I also really enjoy acting. And if I could act in my own stuff and also other stuff, that would be the best if I could do both at the same time.
Yeah, and obviously we've all been inside now for several months. So do you have any recommendations of what you've been watching that people might enjoy?
Yeah, recently I just watched this Robert Zemeckis movie called I Want to Hold Your Hand, and it's about this group
Right.
of teens who go to meet the Beatles or try and meet the
Okay.
Beatles, and it's great. It's really fun, and it's an awesome movie that I hadn't seen before. And also, just recently, I've been watching some documentaries by Errol Morris. So things like The Thin Blue Line and Vernon, Florida, and his documentaries are fascinating because they're all so different from each other.
Yeah, and obviously earlier in the discussion you mentioned Stranger Things actor Finn Wolfhard, and the two of you host a podcast together, I believe, the Lackluster Video Podcast, if my research serves me correct. And I guess, how did the two of you come together to do this podcast?
We actually met on the street in Toronto,
Right.
and I met him just as a fan because I knew that he was a fan of my two favorite comedians, Jake and Amir, who worked for College Humor and then went on to start their own podcast network.
Sure.
And then we talked for about 5 minutes just about comedy. And then he went to go do a record signing or something. And then about a year later, I got cast in a role in the new Ghostbusters movie. And we met again on set and just hit it off again. And like, we remembered each other, or he remembered that I had come up to him. And then we slowly started talking to Jake and Amir, who were our favorite comedians. And then they had their podcast network, and kind of during the quarantine, it became this thing of everybody was looking for something to do. So they asked us if he wanted to do, or I should say they asked him if he wanted to do a podcast, and we'd already done a pilot episode. And it was just a lot of fun. It was a really crazy kind of full circle experience.
Yeah, and obviously you've given me a great segue into the next question, because I saw on IMDb that you're in the new Ghostbusters film. Obviously, Finn is one of the leads in that, but do you have any plans to develop a project with them where you've got more screen time together?
With me and Finn?
Yeah,
we have a couple of projects that we're developing together that would have we've become writing partners. I mean, we've written a feature film together that I can't say too much about, but it's
sure.
it's a comedy slasher film, and Finn and I would both be in it, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Right. And again, another thing I saw you've got coming up is a film called Dreamland, which also features Gary Oldman, Evangeline Lilly, that's another Canadian, and Greg Kinnear, among others. And I guess, who do you play in that, and what was your experience of working on it?
So that
how
was
your experience, I should say.
That was my first movie that I ever did.
Right.
And I remember I had read for one part, and then they didn't like me for that part, but they had asked me to read for this other part. And I just went out and I shot a few days. And I play Evangeline Lilly's son.
Right.
And I won't get too much into the details of the film, because I honestly don't even know that much about it.
Yeah.
But I got to spend a couple of days with her, and she was super awesome and like really supportive and just kind. And she knew that it was the first thing that, or she learned that it was the first thing that I had done, and she was super sweet about it. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And I suppose if people wanted to find more information about your projects or you personally, where could they look?
I guess they could follow me on Instagram, probably is the app that I'd be most active on, at Ryan Gosling, which is a little joke based on Ryan Gosling, who obviously is my favorite actor and fellow Canadian.
Right. And this is actually the last question I've got here. And I suppose during the pandemic, what advice do you think you'd offer to fans of your work or of you personally?
I would say that take the time. It's such a tough time, but take as much time as you can to think about the type of things that you want to do and the stuff that you'll want to do when this is over, and really try and think about what steps you can take now, either by learning, like reading, learning, watching stuff, or writing, and just try and use this time as productively as possible. Because even though it's really hard, I think that it would be great if there was some good stuff that did come out of this time.
Thank you.